Yeah, I don't know how to combat that. Because if I
This
say,
is all just
no,
a
I
ruse.
didn't. I didn't do so. And you've implied it twice now, so that just makes it, yep, it's fact. That's what Silas did.
Yep. I can't wait until there's the Silas Jax shippers.
Oh,
That's
no Silas Jack shippers. Oh, no.
Yep, it's gonna happen.
Not
I'm really
again.
sorry, Skelly.
Poor Silas. He keeps getting shipped with all the male characters.
And Jack is ace.
Sarhane isn't male.
Oh, that's true. There are Sarhane shippers. I forgot there are Sarhane shippers. That's right.
I mean, it can't be worse than Team Corbus, so, do your worst, Echoers fans.
I'll make sure to put that in the Patreon chat, just so you know.
But this would be like a thing to put, maybe not in the episode, but just in general. Let me see if I can find it. So we're having a discussion here because I ate too hot pizza, and I bit it with my mouth, and it burned my mouth, as you do.
As opposed to eating it with what? Your eyes?
Shut your mouth.
And
Hi,
there
my
was
name's Rebecca.
initial...
No, sorry, Skelly. What were you saying? Go. You're good.
There was initially some, we're not really sure what's going on here. Well, I wasn't really sure what's going on here because I had understood Steven is having this pizza for breakfast, and I was just like, whoa, you don't eat pizza so hot it burns your mouth for breakfast. Those are the rules. I don't make them. But it turns out that this was more of a lunch type situation, just relative to when he woke up this morning.
No, he woke up at like 11 o'clock. So breakfast is within like the first 2 hours of waking up. This was not a lunch pizza. He literally took the pizza out of the freezer, put it into the oven to make a pizza for breakfast.
Okay, just so we're clear, if Burger King, McDonald's, and Wendy's all consider it to be lunchtime, it's fucking lunchtime. That's not up to me. Society has dictated it is lunchtime at that point in time.
McDonald's
counterpoint. I don't know if, there's all-day breakfast now. At least here McDonald's has all-day breakfast now, and so does A&W.
I don't need any of your attitudes. A&W has breakfast?
Yeah, it's awesome. It's my favorite.
What?
We're gonna have to go to A&W for breakfast now.
That we can't go to A&W. So our A&W is currently closed because it's a nightmare. That place is a fucking nightmare.
Is it currently closed?
Yes.
Oh.
It is a Long John Silver's and A&W, and the Long John Silver's that used to be downtown exploded. That's no longer there anymore. That building has just been slowly written off. And now the A&W Long John Silver's uptown is also just run down and garbage. I don't know what it is.
Like A&W is pretty popular in, at least on the prairies portion of Western Canada. Like, you go into any A&W and that's where you're gonna find all, like, the senior citizens hanging out and the farmers hanging out and the contractors hanging out. It's just like, it's the place you go and hang out, and they have a good breakfast. And there's one at the mall nearby, and the nice old franchise owner always like calls me nice names like Sweetie and stuff, but it's not creepy.
Oh, that's nice.
That's always nice.
Yeah.
When somebody says like, "Oh, hey, honey," without it being
he's always just happy to see people.
He's showing me a bit. What is this?
What is
Send me
this
a link.
ominous chanting?
It's children reciting this poem called Pizza Mouth.
Yeah, I'm not crazy.
Give me a link.
Hang on, this is 11 years ago.
Wow, this is like totally not creepy at all, am I right?
Pizza Mouth.
Pizza Mouth. Pizza Mouth.
Summoning the great beast, Pizza Mouth.
If you say Pizza Mouth 3 times while looking at yourself in the mirror, he appears.
The new Candyman reboot is not good.
Oh, man. See, this is why you eat your pizza cold. This is, if there's any argument for eating cold pizza.
What a nightmare. I can't do cold pizza.
That's okay, Mr. Skeleton can't either. He'd be all about the reheated leftovers.
Yeah, you gotta heat them up, yeah.
There's some leftovers I can eat cold, but a majority of them have to be, like, reconstituted in some way.
Nah.
Like what?
Like pizza, I kind of like some lukewarm, soggy pizza. Shake your head at me.
No, I like my pizza to be as hot as possible, and then to be like bubbling hot cheese on top, and then that just awful brick on the inside where you have to like crunch through it, and it turns to just brick dust in your mouth.
No, I hate
Oh God, yeah.
This I'm learning all sorts of new things about you this morning, and I don't know if I like it.
No one does. It's fine. I've made these decisions. I like my pizza blackened. If I could have it that way, I would. So I used to work at a pizza place way back when, and
You can say which pizza.
No, it was before I worked at Little Caesars.
Oh, okay.
And so, when I worked there, Napoli Pizza in Philadelphia, for anyone listening who's in Philly, don't go there. It sucked. But like, their pizza was not good. Oh, yeah, I can hit them right now. Your pizza is trash, and I know for a fact you're not good at your jobs. Sorry.
All right, if I do end up coming to PAX, I'm not going to Napoli Pizza.
We'll all go to Napoli, and I will
I'll
stand
refuse.
outside and
I'll
throw
stage
stuff
like
at them.
a sit-in in the hotel or something.
Like, I worked there, and they gave me free stuff all the time, and I still would not go back there, even if the food was free at this point in time. It just, like, they were nice enough people, but they did not know how to make good pie. But one of the things that they would do is they would have slices. So, they would make a slice pie, you'd cut it up into slices, and then people could take slices. So I would take the slices from up in the window, and I would scrape everything off of it and throw all that away. So like a cheese slice, scrape everything off, put just the crust back in so the crust gets nice and blackened, and then put new stuff on it and redo the whole thing. Because I like a crispy crust, man. I like a crispy crust. That's why I like thin crust. It's so good.
So we're going to be doing this entire show without Silas, because he needs to move out immediately.
How dare you? Okay, if you're listening out there, if you are a fan of the show, and you have at any point in time heard the song Pizza Mouth, or the poem Pizza Mouth, fucking let us know, please, because I cannot find the actual poem itself other than those weird kids chanting it, and I would love to have that discussion.
Oh man, this goes deep. This goes real deep.
This is what it is to be a part of the podcast. See, this is what you're missing out on, Skelly, is all this fucking nonsense. I swear to God.
She's not missing out, I promise.
No, I'm totally missing out, and I'm frankly offended that you didn't bring me in on this sooner.
You're right. It has been a tragedy that you haven't been on sooner.
Although, if we had brought her on sooner, would the Pizza Mouth story have even happened? Who knows? There's
Pizza
only a
Mouth,
30% chance I had pizza for breakfast each day.
30%'s not bad. That's
We
not
have-
bad.
Steven gets free pizza from work sometimes.
I do.
So, like, when he's working overnights, if he gets hungies, he'll just, like, order a free pizza.
How many jobs have you had in your relatively short life that provide you with free pizza on a regular basis?
So, let's see. I worked at Napoli Pizza, and I got free pizza there, yeah. And then I worked at Little Caesars. I was the manager of a Little Caesars for a year, and I got a lot of free pizza there. And then now I work at a hotel, and I get free pizza from there sometimes, because the way it works is if people bring over, like, hey, I'm Domino's, I'm delivering, they have a thing called a pizza sheet, because we're recommending them to people, so they'll give us free pizzas for recommending people, and it's a weird thing.
Is this something that you, like, actively seek out as job perks when looking for work, or is this just, like, the universe watching out for you?
I feel like it might be the universe watching. I didn't think before that it could be, but now I'm wondering, has the universe always cared? Is that why it taught me about pizza mouth at a young age, so that way it could prepare me for what it had in store?
When it comes to the big things in life, I'm not a big believer in coincidence, and this sounds like a pretty big thing in life.
So I'm not a big fan of coincidence either. I also normally don't believe in, like, ghosts and family ancestors and stuff like that, but maybe my great ancestors are all looking out for me, making sure I'm getting free pizza.
I mean, did any of them work for a pizza joint?
What if my family invented pizza and this is God's way of telling me?
Someone needs to do some ancestry, genealogy, wibbly-wobbly stat.
All right, so things are actually getting weird now that I'm starting to think about it, because one of the first places, and we've talked about this previously, that my mom worked at was a pizza shop. She worked at Alfredo's Pizza in Rio Grande.
Oh, no.
And when she worked there, I would go there all the time, and that's where I played
pizza?
Golden Axe.
Oh,
Because I mentioned that was my favorite video game. That was the arcade cabinet. Man, that's fucking weird. It's getting real weird now.
So, hi, my name's Rebecca.
Yeah, we need to get this show on the goddamn road. We
This,
don't have
10
time
minutes
for
about
Rebecca and
pizza.
Steve intro. We need to get to the bottom of this. I'm going to start making some calls. We're going to find out now how deep the pizza hole goes.
Yeah, let me
Don't
know
say
if you need a
pizza
hand,
hole.
man. I'm here for you. I'm invested. All right, yeah, let's get the show going and save Rebecca her sanity, or what's left of it at this point.
No, she doesn't want to get off the call now because she knows as soon as we get off the call, this becomes my obsession. Who cares about this week's episode? We need to get to the bottom of this pizza. Kevin Capona in Pizza Caper. All right, yeah, we should
and
actually...
today we have...
No. Let's actually come in.
I don't know what we want here. I don't know anymore.
Let's have an intro that is unsullied by pizza.
Yeah,
There will never be an intro unsullied by pizza.
all right,
The
pretend
outtakes
we're
of this
professional.
episode are
Here we
gonna
go.
be wild.
Here we go.
Okay.
Hello, my name's Rebecca.
And I'm Steve.
And today with us we have a wonderful guest, popular blogger. Can I say that? Can I say you're a popular blogger? The Lost Skeleton, also known as Elly. I don't know your last name.
It's Runnels. Elly
Runnels.
Runnels. Yes.
Man, I'm really bad about people's last names because I don't ever use them.
That's fine. I'm really bad about first names because I just always go, hey, it's Skelly, you know? Or
Skelly.
Joseph. It's just chaos, you know? It's
No,
just, yeah.
I don't know if you can call me a popular blogger, but I do the thing on the internets.
So, for those not informed, Skelly, how do you want me to refer to you during this entire thing? I'm just going to refer to you as Skelly because that's who you are to me.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what you want. We're going to refer to you however we feel like it. You've been changed now.
I will accept my fate with dignity.
You write a Savage Worlds Eberron story blog. Is that how we would... that's how I describe it.
I have no idea why you're looking at me like
like
I'm
know things?
I'm gonna jump in here and be like, well, no, technically I'd call it, no, yeah, absolutely, Eberron story blog.
I pitched it as, when I joined the Savage Worlds Media Network, I pitched as a, quote, adventure blog, because, I also do mechanics articles and stuff, and that's what Pinnacle ran with when they gave me a shout out on their website. So let's go with adventure blog.
Adventure blog.
Sounds very dashing.
It also, it sounds very dashing, but it could also be, middle-class white people who have gone to the Grand Canyon once.
Oh, yeah, I was going to imagine, live, laugh, love, just written on the wall.
No.
It's an adventure blog.
Our adventure through life.
I spent some time in Zill, and now I like to dress like I'm from Zill. No, please don't do that. Don't do that. That's awful. But tell us about your adventure blog. Just give us a little...
Well, it is called Tales from Savage Eberron, and it just kind of happened, I never intended to be a blogger or a content creator or whatever you want to call me at this point in time, but exactly a year ago last week, I had my first session with an absolutely fantastic group of people I fell in with after the GM posted an LFG on the Big Eberron Discord server. And I kind of right off the bat just sort of fell into the role of unofficial chronicler, where I was I was writing up the post-session recaps, but doing them with that sort of storytelling bent rather than just having a bullet list of notes or anything like that. And at first it was pretty kind of basic stuff where I wasn't even taking notes during the sessions. I was just running off memory and just doing it up the next day. And I was really excited about this campaign. It was an amazing table. I was having fun right from the get-go. So I started sharing those stories, sharing those recaps on the Eberron Discord, where there's a channel just for that kind of purpose. And after a few months, those recaps got progressively longer and more detailed, and I started talking about kind of what happened behind the scenes of the sessions in terms of fun mechanics that made this stand out as different from playing Eberron in D&D or stuff like that. And it was all getting kind of long and unwieldy. It was definitely wall of text territory. Back in, I guess it was back in March of this year, Christian Serrano, who some of you might know as a former co-host of Manifest Zone, who some of you may also know as having kind of been the voice of Savage Eberron for long before I came on the scene. I guess he'd been lurking the Game Tales channel because, he messaged me and was like, hey, have you thought about turning these stories into a blog? More people would see it. It'd be really cool. Let's spread the good word of Savage Eberron, at every opportunity. And I was just like, I guess I could do that as a favor if you really want me to, but this seems pretty niche, and I don't think anyone's actually going to read it. There's the 5 people on the Eberron Discord who like my stories, but I guess I could turn it into a blog. And Kristen was just like, yes, you should. And he was also managing the Savage Worlds Media Network at the time, and he was like, yeah, no, I'll fold you into this. We'll tweet you out. We'll get the word out on our end too. And I was just like, oh, okay, it doesn't cost me anything. Well, I mean, it cost me $15. I registered a domain name, but I already had this massive Google Doc where I save all my recaps, so wasn't a ton of work to get it off the ground. And So that was what I did, and I advertised it on Reddit. I advertised it on the Savage Worlds Discord, and a lot, and aside from which also Kristen was bumping it up on Twitter. I know you guys were bumping it up on Twitter, and within the first week of launch, I had something like 300 to 400 views.
Very nice.
And at the one, on the one hand, I was like, okay, well, I guess this might make sense, because at that point I had 35 weeks worth of content from this campaign that I published. I published all at once, just backdated it for archival purposes to be easier to find and sort, but it started with a lot to read, with the promise of there being weekly content in, going forward. And I was, I saw this traffic and I was just like, hell, what's going on here? Where did this come from? Why are so many people reading? What is happening here? And, kind of fast forward to, now at the beginning of August, and there's only been like 2 or 3 days where it's gotten no traffic whatsoever. And it's a bit strange, still kind of, again, because I didn't go into this with any expectations or any sense of, I'm going to be a content creator now, and people are going to think seems people do think it's cool. There's the little voice in the head that's just like, yeah, well, there's also no other Savage Eberron blog that I know of out there. At the same time, I've been in creative communities online a long time, and I don't think that people, even if there's no other choice out there, will necessarily gravitate to something they don't actually like or don't actually think has any, value or quality or things like that. So that's the story of how I got started. I can't remember what your original question is, because I just like to talk.
No, you got a niche, man. You got that niche, which I think is really weird in Eberron, because you think Eberron is such a small community as it is within the larger D&D community, that me doing something even more niche on top of that, I'm not gonna get any attention at all. But people just eat it up, man. Like, with us, we were like, we'll get 10 people to listen to our podcast and that'll be fine. We got more than 10.
We got 11.
Yeah, like, part of that was also within, that the idea was that this wasn't just for the Eberron community,
Mm-hmm.
kind of Christian's vision, I guess, was this is something that will, help introduce the Eberron community to Savage Worlds, and on the flip side, something that will help get the Savage Worlds community more interested in Eberron.
Yeah.
So, kind of things coming from both sides there, and even just like within the last 2-3 weeks, there's been this weird little explosion of interest in Eberron within the Savage Worlds community, which is fun to see. Hey, we did it, Reddit.
I think that's one of the first times I've ever heard that phrase used positively.
I like to flip tropes. I enjoy subverting archetypes. So I love Eberron.
We'll get back to Savage Worlds in a moment, but where did you start your tabletop gaming journey? Like, did you start with D&D? If so, what edition? Or was it something else?
All right, so that's a story with a few layers, but the shorter version is in 2018, I took a trip to visit some friends in Virginia. And they are, where their house was like incredibly well situated to do all sorts of exciting tourist things within like a 2.5 hour drive. So I was just having a blast. I'd never been there before. I hadn't been back to the Metro DC region since like a really uninspiring school trip in 1999. And, I was just like, all right, tourist me, people. When we went to the museums in DC, we went to Gettysburg, we went to the National Aquarium in Baltimore, which, if you like aquariums, is an absolute bucket list trip. But, we were going pretty hard on doing all the exciting exploring stuff and having fun. And, like, none of us are in our 20s anymore. There comes to a point in life where there is such a thing as having too much fun and you just want to sleep all day. And so after about 2-3 days of going full steam on this vacation, we just called it in and just sat around, decided we're going to sit around the house all day. And, by early afternoon, everyone was awake and fed, and we were just kind of lounging around the dining room table, shooting the breeze. And one of my friends goes, "Hey, you guys want to play a game?" And we're like, "Yeah, we like games." And so she starts pulling out some papers and dice, and it wasn't for D&D, it was a absolutely fantastic little no prep, improv heavy 1-page RPG called Jason Statham's Big Vacation. It's by Grant Howitt, who's also known as the creator of Honey Heist and Crash Pandas, amongst other things. I didn't know any of this at the time. All I knew was like, we're gonna play some wacky improv game based on Jason Statham movies, and I have no shame in admitting that I have an unreserved fondness for such movies and a somewhat encyclopedic memory for bad movie trivia. So I was just like, put me in the game, coach. It's this fantastic little game. It's up to 4 players. You play as Jason's lawyer, agent, bodyguard, and tour guide. And the GM plays as Jason Statham, and the goal of the game is to guide Jason through a series of 3 different scenarios while preventing him from becoming critically bored, critically sad, or assassinated by Wesley Snipes. And
oh my God, what is this game?
The GM rolls each scenario on a random table. And, you'll, depending on what you roll, it'll be something like you're in an art gallery, you're at a fancy French restaurant, you're at the Greyhound track, stuff like that. And then they also roll on the table of complications for the scene, which, might be a rival action star coming to have a beef, or his meddling aunt showing up, or my personal favorite, a prompt that just says eels. That's it. Eels.
Just
eels.
eels.
That what you will. So... Anyways, this is a short little game. It's like an hour and a half kind of thing, and I had the time of my life. I have an acting background. I can be incredibly shy, but I also really love hamming it up, playing a part. And it was, this was great. It was hilarious. It was fun. I got to prevent Jason from becoming critically sad in the very last scene by putting on a performance of the Michigan J. Frog song. Good times were had by all. And then the next day we did more Doors things. And then the day after that, the same person who had run Jason Statham's Big Vacation, I don't think she even asked us what we wanted to do at that point, but we were sitting around the dining room table again, and she just pulled out a bunch of character sheets and some dice and was like, "Hey guys, we're playing D&D now." And, and yeah, it was 5th edition, and we played this little introductory session, and then agreed that after the vacation ended, we wanted to keep up playing. So we had this little campaign go for about 5-6 months. That was my foot in the door for tabletop in general. How I got into being a complete shill for Savage Worlds is its own separate story.
I am fascinated by this RPG. Oh my goodness! This is
Jason Statham's Big Vacation.
Yeah. Oh my goodness! We just
got
it.
Grand Howard is amazing.
It's so good.
It is so good.
All right, I'm gonna call Jason Statham and Wesley Snipes, and we're gonna get them to play it with us.
Seriously, it's the best. Like,
I love it. So I suppose that's when we transition into Savage Worlds? ?
I don't know. You don't seem sure in yourself.
I never.
You're doing the interview here. You're supposed to.
I don't know. You aren't interviewing at all. So
well, no, because I was.
Step up.
What do you? Well, I'm sorry. Who brought all the fun? Who brought the pizza mouth? That was me. Thank you very much.
He's got you there.
I'm getting ready to go into a diatribe about Wesley Snipes and Jason Statham. You're like, let's talk about Savage Worlds, okay?
Savage Worlds does need to be talked about.
I know. Let's talk about Savage Worlds. I'm excited to talk about Savage Worlds.
So why is Savage Worlds better than Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, Skelly?
Look at that. See? Look at that. That seemed more confident. That was a much more confident question.
Wow, I feel like, asking that question phrased that way is the kind of thing that gets, like, people saying bad things about me on Twitter.
Don't worry.
But
I'll be the one to say bad things about you on Twitter, and it'll be like, she's way too pretty.
Oh, I'm too beautiful for my own good. I knew it would come back to bite me one day. So let me preface this by saying that I have absolutely nothing against 5e, like so many other people who have started playing tabletop in the last 5-ish years. That was my introduction to tabletop gaming. That's how I got my foot in the door. That's how I found out about Eberron. And, I will still play 5e, for one-shots, or if someone invites me to, or something like that.
Of course.
But Savage Worlds has definitely become my preferred system, especially for Eberron. So why do I prefer it? Because I don't want to say why is it better, because then people will get angry at me on the internet. But
you're right. I should have been the one to phrase that better. Why is Savage World preferred over D&D or
preferred over 5th edition trash for let's just get it canceled. Come on, let's go.
All right. There are a few things I really like about it. One, and this was a really hard thing to wrap my head around as a new player, and I got a lot of help with it, was classes don't exist in Savage Worlds. You build your character exactly how you want to tell the story you are telling, and not only that, but you increase that story every single time you take an advance, which is Savage Worlds jargon for leveling up. So there aren't any dead levels the way there are in other systems. Every time you get an advance, you're either bumping up a skill die, or bumping up an attribute die, or getting a new edge, which for 5e players is kind of similar to feats but on steroids. It really enables you to tell a very particular story. Not that you can't tell a very particular story in D&D, but it's the idea of that story being locked in some ways. Okay, I know that when I get to 7th level, I'll have uncanny dodge, as opposed to, I initially thought I might want to get thievery as a skill in my next advance. But actually, the story's kind of changed, and I think I'm gonna take an edge instead.
So what you're saying is that you feel that with that, the game allows you to tailor your characters a little more. I think that's kind of neat. I didn't realize that was an option. Now, what about like balancing amongst the team? If each individual player is going and taking edges and things like that, do you feel without the classes that you lose that sense of balance?
Okay, balance in Savage Worlds is a bit of a strange concept because there are a couple of things in play here, and I guess the biggest one is the mechanic of exploding dice and raises. The target number for most things in Savage Worlds is 4. It's not a D20 system, and so let's say I want to make a persuasion check. For a basic success, I need to roll a 4, but for every further increment of 4 I roll above, something extra will happen. If I roll a 4 and say, hey guy, I need some information about that shady shopkeeper down the road, the guy might say, oh yeah, that's Phil. We know him around town. If I get a raise, he might say, oh yeah, that's Phil. He likes to drink at the Bloody Mug. You can find him there and probably corner him a little bit. So that's one thing where the system of raises changes how things happen versus a D20 kind of binary pass-fail system. And the other big thing in terms of balance, especially in terms of things like combat encounters, is that because of exploding dice, balance effectively doesn't exist in combat encounters in Savage Worlds. The exploding dice being, anytime you roll a max value on a die, you get to roll another die of the same value, and it keeps going until you stop rolling the max value.
I was going to say, I've done that with World of Darkness. World of Darkness, we did a campaign and they had the exploding dice. I really enjoyed that. I think it's a fun mechanic.
It's absolutely wild. Also, our table doesn't play with wound cap, which is something else I can explain later, but it's not really terribly relevant. But the point is that you can kill anything at any time in Savage Worlds, but anything can also kill you at any time in Savage Worlds. Early on at the campaign, about 11-12 sessions in, we had an encounter with the Emerald Claw. And there was kind of like a mini-boss type of character on the field. But most of them were just, what you consider like random bandit stats. And one of my party members got taken to incapacitation number of wounds by some random goon with a D4 dagger, which is like the weakest possible weapon in the game. This bandit just got a ridiculous raise on it and blew all of his wound allowance out of the water, and even though he was able to soak it, he still finished the encounter with 2 wounds. That was how bad it was on just that one roll.
Oh my goodness.
And yeah, that can happen to anyone anytime. So I guess to answer your question about party balance, there's still overlapping skills. There is a core set of skills in Savage Worlds, the way there are, your basic skills everyone has in 5e. But at character creation and going forward on advance, if you want to spend your points that way, you can add more skills to the pool through point by character creation or use of an advance. Party composition also depends heavily on what edges you take. Every edge has a requirement to it. Some are as simple as it depends what rank of advancement you're at, and others are, okay, you want this edge, you're going to need to have a D8 in fighting and a D8 in agility before you can take this edge. So people are, always building their characters in, thinking of the future in that sense, and not everyone wants to invest that D8 in fighting or agility. So you're going to fill a role they're not. I'm not 100% sure how to answer your question, Steve, except that, trying to make a, quote, balanced party is kind of irrelevant.
Yeah, because like in Savage Worlds, like the system itself isn't built around the idea of, because it doesn't really have the classes. It's not really built around
I think that might be my problem, is that I'm used to the traditional, like, hey, we need a rogue, a fighter, a cleric, and some sort of caster that would. But I guess if the world isn't built that way, I guess it wouldn't necessarily be needed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like with my current party for the game I'm just wrapping up, the party is a druid who I believe wound up reworking his character after a bit into a sorcerer arcane background, but his his thing is he's got an offensive spell, he's got a crowd control spell or two, and he also has a lot of support spells. That's his thing. And then we have the equivalent of a paladin, who is really tough, hard to hurt, decent in a fight, gets a lot of work done with his axe, but he also has support and buff spells, but he doesn't have access to the same spell list, even so, as the sorcery. That's still a thing we're using. Then we've got a Mark of Shadow Elf, who primarily has relied on melee fighting and using his mark for shenanigans. We've had some excellent shenanigans. And then there's me, who's like built around melee fighting and talking. And I guess what I'm trying to say is, in some sense, we all technically do a lot of the same things, but because we've all built our characters really differently as we go through our advances, there's not a concern of overlap. I've never felt like anyone's stepped on Jack's toes. I hope no one's felt like Jack stepped on their toes. Everyone has their place. Everyone's got their place in the party.
So we're gonna move on to the fun questions. The fun questions.
The fun questions sound good. Yeah, no, I was gonna say Savage World sounds very interesting.
Oh yeah, no, I super
really
want to play Savage Worlds.
Excited to try an Eberron version of that. I think that would be something good to look forward to.
I just like playing different RPGs.
We are behind on. See, we don't play any RPGs anymore. We've lied to all our fans and pretend that we're still a cool, hip D&D player. We don't do that.
Well, keep your eye on the LFG channel on the Eberron Discord, because my beloved GM, who posts to that server as under the name Free Wolf, is looking at running some intro to Savage Eberron one shots.
Well, that might be fun.
So yeah, definitely keep an eye on that channel. I can't think of a better person to learn from.
See, that I'm gonna have to look into that, because I definitely want to play.
A lot of it's finding the times.
I think that is part of the problem, finding the time, and then I can't commit to a time because my schedule changes every week. It makes it so difficult.
Yeah.
Cessed rough.
I don't know what that means, but yes.
It's rough.
But this is a sad story, and Rebecca promised fun questions.
Fun questions.
No, we only...
So I need to preface this with, you are the first person we've interviewed that has gotten these questions ahead of time, that has not specifically listened to one of our OOCs to know what the questions might be.
So depending on how good your answers are, we may never give people the question ever again.
Oh, it's like that old AV Club thing where they'd like have people come in and do covers, and it was first come, first serve, and they crossed the song off the list, and no one else could play it after that. Yeah, I'm down. Let's do it.
All right, here we go.
Okay, Steve, you ask.
So the question that we always ask, which one am I doing?
Whatever.
Because I always like the one as opposed to the other. You
I
like
don't
the
care.
other question.
Just
I don't
do
like.
it.
Okay.
Just ask the stupid question.
So the question that we always ask is, we've introduced radio to Eberron. If you could introduce one thing into a fantasy setting, what would it be?
Into any fantasy setting?
Any fantasy setting, anything at all. We've had people introduce, what was it, spider goats? Spider goats are now a thing that's just a nightmare. What did Steve introduce? I can't remember what Steve introduced.
I don't remember either. I think he said nothing. I think he talked his way around that question.
He does seem like the type who would be like, well, everything really exists if you try hard enough.
Some people have said cell phones.
Yeah, cell phones.
Yeah. So whatever.
The internet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you know, I did play in an Eberron game where, sending stones, handheld sending stones were, the ubiquitous smartphone, flip phone kind of thing. So yeah, that happens. Alright. What would I introduce into any fantasy setting is way too broad for my brain. But I can tell you what I'd introduce into Eberron for kicks.
All right.
A couple of things come to mind. One is the birthright. Is it called the birthright mechanic from Morrowind and Oblivion, where you're born under a particular star sign that guides your path and gives you some kind of status effect. Sometimes it's a flat buff, sometimes it's power for a price. I think that's a really neat mechanic, and to a certain degree, it actually is baked in. Kind of baked in a way to Savage Worlds. You could easily reflavor it, by starting the game with your choice of edges and hindrances. The hindrances being how you get the points to start with edges. So again, it's power for a price. I kind of really like that idea for Eberron, especially with all the moons and stuff like that. I just think it's neat. And
I know a person who may or may not be speaking at this very second was working on a moon supplement wherein we were talking about doing that exact thing.
Really? You know someone? That's crazy. And how often would you say that they're working on that moon supplement?
Not very often, because all of the other people who are working on that moon supplement have other things that they need to be doing right now.
That's true. They're all too cool.
The birthright mechanic from the older Elder Scrolls games, I think.
I was going to say,
really cool.
So the birthright mechanic plus the way that you've done it, or said it's done through Savage Worlds, reminds me of the flaws and feats of 3.5. So you could take a flaw and then you get a bonus feat that you could just choose at level 1, which was a thing that I really liked. I like building those into the background of the character to make them more exciting. I think that would be fun to have the birthright in there, especially with the 13 different moons.
Mm-hmm. And, if you were to ask me about hindrances in Savage Worlds, I would talk your ear off. I think they're the best part of the game. But the other thing, there's an article on my blog about that, by the way. But the other thing that I think would be fun to introduce in certain Eberron campaigns, depending on where it fits or not, is about 20 years ago, I read this book series by an author called Naomi Novik, and the basic premise of it was, what if the Napoleonic War was fought not at sea, but in the air, and the planes were dragons. So, you have like dragon dog, people riding dragon dog fighters, and dragons serving as like bombers. And it's very much a symbiotic relationship between the dragon and the crew or the rider. And I think there's totally a place for that in Eberron.
I was going to say, I definitely think so as well.
I kind of love that idea. And I'm going to have to look up this book now.
Calm down. I can see the excitement in your eyes. No, calm down. No,
I'm sorry. Napoleonic Wars, that's probably one of my favorite eras, because that's right over top the Regency era into the Romance. And don't me.
I have heard enough about the Regency and the Romance and the Napoleon. I'm good.
But have you heard enough about Horatio Hornblower and the Master and Commander Patrick O'Brien books?
No, I've not heard enough about that.
Let's
talk about that. Let's talk about that.
Anyways, yeah, those are the two things that I would happily introduce into the world of Eberron. And there's also you're also kind of in the later portions of those Dragon Rider books. There's like a whole plot arc involving the dragons are completely sentient, but they're treated as animals and property. And there's this whole like plot arc of the dragons starting to go, wait a minute, but you guys get to do all this cool stuff and have all these rights that we don't. That's not right. We need to do something about that. So ties into stuff like the Warforged struggle in Eberron. They could be allies in the fight for being recognized. So, yeah.
I think that if you had dragons on your side, I think people are gonna, like, at that point in time, people are gonna, no, okay, you can have rights, it's fine.
I mean, there is also that, that it was, the plot arc was a little bit, there was very much that question of, you are dragons, why are you not just giving the people what for and swanning off and living free in Dragonland? They're not, who's going to stop you? Not some guy with like a Napoleonic musket. But anyways, they're fun books. They're good books. I like them.
I'm gonna have to look up these books. I said that already.
I know. You're excited. Yep. You're already excited about the books.
Yep. Next time we go to the mall.
Oh, cool. We'll just never go to the mall. All right.
Shit.
Just wait for the mall to die naturally.
It's happening soon.
Oh, no. Too real.
Ours, we've been back recently, and it is a husk. It was very light before COVID, and COVID did it no favors. It looks like the mall has COVID. It's just not doing well.
Oh, man.
There's a death rattle.
There's a death rattle in between the old, what used to be Sears, and then what used to be the Elder Bierman. Both of those closed, and now there's that death rattle.
Oh man, the death of Sears was intense.
We lost that one. Like, they still have the JCPenney's. I think if that goes, that's the end of that mall.
Our mall only has 2 anchor stores now, and it's Target and JCPenney's. So it's rough. Anyway, Elly, if you could use...
We're calling I thought you said, you've got to make up your mind what names we're using.
I will never make up my mind.
Oh my goodness.
If you could use any magic spell in real life, be it a D&D 5th edition one, whatever, what spell would it be?
Oh, that's easy. I'm real basic. I want teleportation. I live across the country from my mother. I live far away from all my dearest friends, and I hate to fly, and I'm also not made of money. So give me that teleportation. Tattoo
Good
me up
one.
with the Mark of Passage. I'm set.
I mean, I agree with that one, but then also I am petrified of that fuck up. That percentage chance of everything going wrong is like, it's not as low as I think it is.
I mean,
Flying
look,
suddenly
you
seems
know.
reasonable.
I grew up on Star Trek. I know all about transporter malfunctions. Everything's fine in the end. So what if you're like, you know, a partial lizard person for a few hours? It's all good.
I mean, that's a little different. That would be like if there was a malfunction in a teleportation circle. That's not if you're casting it. If you're casting it, and now you're stuck in the middle of the woods, and you're also part lizard, I think that's gonna just.
And then you become a cryptid, and it's all good. You're living the life.
It's a risk I'm willing to take. Because I'm cheap and I don't want to spend all that money on flights.
Oh, that's another one I didn't think of. Yeah, the money aspect. I guess that does make sense. But man, I can't, because I am. Although for teleportation, what do you have to have? I know teleportation circle. It's 100 GPs worth of magical pigment. What that is for regular teleportation.
A marked Orionaire.
That's true. If you're a marked, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. That's fair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just manifest a
Dragon mark.
fancy
Yep.
fancy tattoo.
Yeah, that's my new life goal. I'm sure it's perfectly attainable if I just believe in myself.
I'd say just believe hard enough. Keith did it. He believed hard enough and then created an entire world. So I think maybe, just maybe, because he's got the mark of making now.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, see, that
it's on his right shoulder.
Yeah,
it's a greater mark too.
It's creation. Isn't that what greater mark is?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, look
I'm
at that.
pretty
I know
sure.
my stuff.
Yeah, that's 3.5. I don't know a lot of 3.5.
Yeah, that's right.
Mm.
You've been faking it this whole time. No one knows. Rebecca does not actually know anything about Eberron. She's just been faking.
I do. I fake all of my Eberron knowledge, and they still made me a moderator on the Eberron server. Oh gosh, Steven.
The fucking Steven me. You gotta brag again about being a moderator? Okay, yeah, we get it. You're cool.
I'm not cool.
So
Don't
how
call
about that Stephen, eh?
So how about that, Steven? Do you have any other questions for our lovely guest before she starts pitching all of her stuff?
I mean, I would love to sit here and discuss Savage Worlds all day, but it has been a very long interview already, and I feel like if we start going down that road, we will not get to what we need to do. So I will respectfully, because I'd love to just hear about all of the just mechanics of it, absolutely. But no, I need to focus. So I think we're good. I think that this is a nice place to stop. I think we had a nice conversation. Is that what you want to hear?
I mean, I just asked you a question. I didn't want or not want to hear anything in particular.
There's so much sass between us today. What is going on?
I have that effect on people. I'm sorry.
All right, we got to get rid of Skelly. That's it. Bye, Skelly.
Bye.
Bye.
No, tell our wonderful listeners who have gotten this far where they can find your podcast. It's not a podcast, Rebecca. That's what
I'm
you're
on the
doing.
podcast now. The podcast is coming from within your house.
Where they can find your blog, find you, find out more about Savage Worlds, whatever.
All right. So, about me. My blog is called Tales from Savage Eberron. It is at savageeberrontales.com. You can find it for, gosh, are we at 44 weeks of stories to tell for the tale of the Seekers of the Ashen Crown? Yeah, this campaign has been what I suspect is a heavily modified version of that 4th edition adventure.
I was going to say, how many pieces have you recovered of the Ashen Crown?
We have recovered all of them. We're
Oh.
having our final session next week. And
Oh,
then
very
it
nice.
is over, and then we're rolling in to a fresh new campaign which is going to be based on the Pathfinder Skull and Shackles adventure path and take place in the Lazar Principalities.
All right, just let me know what day it is, and I'll be there.
So Tales from Savage Eberron is the name of the blog. It has lots of content for you to read to hear the story of the Seekers of the Ashen Crown. There's a little bit of, there's typically some light mechanics and background talk at the end of most recaps, but there's also some dedicated articles in their own category for mechanics about things like hindrances and bennies and cinematic combat and how that works in Savage Worlds and all that good stuff. You can find me on Discord as TheLostSkeleton. That is really the number one place to find me and get in touch with me. As far as public servers go, you'll find me on the official Eberron Discord and the unofficial Savage Worlds Discord. I do not tweet. I do not use Facebook. So you'd have a hard time finding me there. I'm also the Lost Skeleton on Xbox Live, so if you want to play something, I don't know, hit me up, whatever, we'll talk.
Alright, I'm adding you now.
But yeah, best place to find me is either on Discord or by leaving a comment or using the contact button on the blog. And I will be more than happy to talk your ear off about Savage Eberron, and I think that's what Steve wants to do after we stop recording.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think we'll just jump into an Xbox chat, and then we'll just play Xbox and talk about Savage Worlds. That seems like a great time.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody who's listening is going to go over to your blog, and they're going to go to the very... Let's do the very latest blog post. Whatever it is.
Okay.
The very latest.
Very latest.
And what are they going to write in the comments section?
I don't know. You tell me. Jason Statham. Gonna write Jason Statham right in the comment section. That way Skelly knows that Genbo, Tamara, and Hunter all made it through the episode.
At least, at the very least, write whatever you want, but be sure to just sneak in a reference to Jason Statham.
There you go. Perfect.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
No. Read it. Talk about it. Learn about the Ashen Crown. The Ashen Crown was a hell of a module, and we couldn't figure out how to work it in yet. And I would love to have references to it. It was a really good time. I enjoyed that one from 4E. I stole it for 5 and for 3.5, but.
Well, thank you so much, Elly. Skeleton, Skelly, whatever. Because I'm not deciding, and I won't ever decide.
I have
for
many
coming
hats.
On. You have many hats. Yeah, but thank you for coming on and chilling out with us and talking about Savage Worlds and your blog and all that good stuff. The moment that you had announced that you were actually publishing your Game Tales writings, I was like,
Yep.
She's coming on.
Yep.
I told Steven that day, I was like, she's got a blog now. She's coming on, right? We're doing this?
Doing
He's
this.
like, yeah, we're doing this. So yeah, thank you. And I mean, I'm sure that we're going to have you back at some point because we do like that. Yeah.
Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for being here. It was an absolute pleasure having you all listen. And remember to watch out for Pizza Mouth.
Truer words were never spoken.
It's a good fucking PSA right there, I'm telling you.